Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Over the Board Chess Tournaments here on the GothamChess YouTube channel. A series once known as Road to Grandmaster, perhaps still known to some as Road to Grandmaster, in the meantime known as can your favorite chess YouTuber go to a tournament and actually win a game of chess? Because it has been a really long time. I started playing in competitive tournaments again in 2024. I very quickly had two very successful ones and a third that was break even. Since then, I slumped a lot. I didn't play as much as I wanted to in the year 2025. And actually, I was going to play a tournament over this past week in December, but my flight to Mexico was canceled, and that was a whole ordeal. I covered it in a video called Road to GM Update. Now, I am playing in a tournament here in New York City. It's 7 rounds, and in my first round game, I was playing a 9-year-old. This kid's birth year was 2016. I think this is the youngest person I have ever played. It's not even close. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. The thing is, a 9-year-old can be like, his FIDE rating is 2,000, but he could already be 2,200 strength, 2,300 strength. He could be very varying and up and down. At this tournament, like, an 8-year-old beat a grandmaster in the first round, Alexander Lenderman. So crazy stuff. Now, here we go. Let's get into the game. Shout out to all of you who enjoy these videos. My opponent plays e4. That's all I knew. I have the Caro Kann. I will play this opening if the world is ending. I have some other stuff as well that I'm planning to roll out at some point, but I did play the Caro Kann. I was like, look, I have played this opening nearly twice as long as this kid has been alive. We might as well play the freaking Caro Kann. You know what I'm saying? He went d4, d5, and then he played knight c3. And I was really annoyed. Because I recently covered knight c3. I had a game against none other than Logan Brain, who has had 2 appearances on this channel. I've played him twice in New York City. And you may remember that in that game, we got pawn takes, knight takes, the classical main line, and instead of going for the Tartakower, I played bishop f5. I don't have a huge affinity for the Tartakower anymore. I haven't studied it as much as of late. I've kind of gone back to the classical. Knight to g3, bishop to g6, knight f3, and instead of going knight d7, I again played e6, h4, h6, h5, bishop h7, bishop d3, takes, knight f6, bishop d2, bishop e7. I'm not analyzing any of these moves because I analyzed them in a recap video like 2-ish weeks ago. This is all the main line. All of this has been played before. And my opponent long castled. Now, at this point, white has the following ideas. Knight to e4, g4, g5 if black castles. Black wants to play a bit on the queen side, open up the position. White has another idea, which is sometimes rook e1 and playing on the e file. So I thought here and was like, look, I'm in a really weird spot as a content creator because I have no idea if this 9-year-old watched that recap. He didn't seem like a Gotham fan. He came to the board and he didn't have a score sheet to write his moves down, so he kind of like looked around and I was sitting next to the ledge that had the score sheet, so I kind of reached back because I'm 30, right? I could be his father, and I gave him a score sheet. Didn't even acknowledge my existence. Like, a dude just took the score sheet and just started writing on it. I was like, dude, what do the kids say nowadays? Do they say I got mogged? That's crazy. I was like, he's already playing mind games with me, I don't know if he watched that recap where I covered the entire game where I played c5 in this position. And my logic here was c5 is forcing enough that it's hard to deviate. Like if in this position, I'm not going to play knight c6 again. Maybe I take on d4. So then here I just very quickly played a bad move. Not a bad move, but a move that I know is not the best move. Like if you check the opening database in this position, black plays castles, c5, and knight d7. Literally, black has never played queen b6, ever. If you actually check, yeah, there's no games in this position. So I played queen b6. I knew it wasn't the best move, but I figured he's going to have to figure out why. I don't even know why. I went to b6 because I wanted to target his pawns, right? And I wanted to maybe free up the d8 square for my rook. I also was thinking in some positions, you can sometimes trade the queen. Like, you can get this type of structure, which is good for black. You could also try to trade the queen like this. And I was like, look, let's play this position, which will be at least an equalish middle game. That's why I went queen b6. He responded relatively quickly with knight e4, and I played knight d7, and now white has to come up with a plan. And it's not so simple to come up with a plan, because if you play g4, it makes a lot less sense now, because I don't have a king there. Like, if g4 and I just go, like, takes, and just don't get mated, like, I just knight f6 and something, at the same time, I think I can just take the pawn, maybe? But yeah, I was like not really afraid of this. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go like rook d8. I don't know. So knight d7, I don't know. I already thought like I was pretty satisfied. And then he went c4. So he spent about 20 minutes here. He went c4, and I was sitting like, you know, I did the Hikaru, logical. You know, he wants to go c5 maybe. And then I was like, okay, so now if I play queen a6, it's no longer a queen trade. So here I had the following idea, which was queen a6, king b1, and then some sort of like b5 concept. Queen a6, king b1, I would be taking the knight and then taking this pawn. So queen a6, I figured he would take on f6, and then I would play something like b5 or knight here, or, you know, use my pawns. This was my original plan. And then I was sitting there and I was like, wait a minute, what if I just took his knight first? Because that's the most forcing move. The most forcing move is queen b2 check, actually. But the second most forcing move is to take his knight, and then both these pawns don't have a guard. And out of nowhere, black is winning a pawn on move 15. So I'm doing my favorite activity in chess, which is beating children. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I won a pawn. That's cool. Really? Wow. That's good. He responded queen e2, and of course I took the pawn on a2. I thought here for like 3 minutes because I was debating whether I should insert this move. Because I can take the pawn, but I was like, is there any difference? I just took on a2, he went here. And I was like, okay. Here we have a moment where if you were to ask me in 2 seconds what is the best move here for black, I would tell you the right answer. And I'm looking at it with Stockfish. Both of the moves, like the move I played was a good move, but the best move is the move that I thought was the best move in 2 seconds. The best move in this position, it's not a check. I hope you understand, like, the beginners might be looking and thinking it's check. It's not, because then the king just moves. And then in many ways, like, if you keep checking, the king will just run to safety. This is more of like a using it when you need it type of situation. But I need time to get my queen out. Anyway, the best move in this position for black is the incredible move pawn to b5. The idea of pawn to b5 is quite simple. White needs a few more moves to consolidate his position and recover from the loss of the pawn. I know that I would like to shred open this side because that's where the king is, and I'm not worried about losing this pawn because I would open up the c and the b lines for my rooks. So the best line is b5, pawn takes, queen b5, and rook b8. Now, this I saw. I am not stupid, all right? Like, this I saw. What I actually kind of missed was that in this position I can play rook takes b2, which is pretty nice. It's a tactic, deflecting the bishop away from the defense of the queen. But even here, something like queen d3, I really underestimated just how good my position was. Like, this is totally winning. But that's not even the best move for white. After b5, I was worried he could go d5. And this I did not know how to evaluate. Because I have a rook in the center, queen in the center, king is, you know, like, well, the computer's like, just do this, dude. Take on d5. He takes. Bro, you just castle. You just castle. He goes here, attacking your knight. You just go here. He takes another pawn with check. What's the big deal? And we just get this position, and it's -3. Like, okay, I guess. And I'm just gonna go like B4. Like if he goes knight e5 attacking my rook, I don't even like. I just go check. I don't even need to. Like the king goes to c2, b4 takes, and I'm just totally winning. Now, I'm gonna be very honest. Once I saw b5 d5, I really did not seriously calculate it because I was like, aren't I just doing what I always do, which is trying to rush my advantage? So let's just go knight b6. I pretty quickly played knight b6. I had two ideas. I'm like, all right, I'm attacking the pawn and I want to go knight a4, knight c3, right? He went knight e5, and originally I was going to very quickly just go knight to a4. I figured he would play queen d3. I was going to take. He would go here, and I was going to play this position because I'm just up a pawn. Like, what? I mean, just bishop f6, I'm up a pawn. Like, just play this out, right? Win this endgame. Then I was like, wait a minute. Hey, what about bishop f6? And I had a very cool calculation here, so I would like to show you. Bishop f6 is a very simple move. I'm attacking the knight. He doesn't have enough time to defend this pawn. He shouldn't push the pawn either, because then I would put my knight here. I would get a really strong outpost in the center of the board. So bishop f6, what I calculated was like he gets some move, like rook h3 or king c2. He played king c2, threatening to trap my queen. And now the plan is simple. The plan is, if I take the knight, he's going to take with the queen, abandon this pawn, then he's going to take on g7, right? And on g7, he's attacking my rook, and he's attacking the other pawns in the position. It's actually very sharp. It doesn't look very comfortable. If in this position I were to castle, he would play d5, and I would actually lose, almost, which is really unfortunate. So that wouldn't work, you know? And then I was like, man, that's actually kind of unpleasant, but I spotted a very important resource. Takes. I just let him take the pawn. Because I'm up 2 pawns. When he takes this pawn, I just get out of there. I just long castle. Now I'm only up 1 pawn, but he cannot take the pawn on f7 because of rook f8, and then the x-ray, skewer, whatever, pin. He can't take this because it's defended. But I actually spent a long time in this position because obviously this is a move. But here, I really, really wanted to play the move king e7. And as you can see from the engine, it's actually not a bad move. The reason why I wanted to play king e7 is because even though my king is less safe in the center, my pawns are very well protected. And the dynamics of the position here were just screaming to me like, hey, if you play like this, you play like rook g8, you kick the queen out, and then you put your knight on d5, how does white ever touch you here? And I calculated this sequence. Something like f6, queen e4. And this is all correct. Like, according to the computer, this entire sequence that I calculated to get to this position is correct. But I don't have a way through. Like, originally, I was thinking to go b5. But then I was like, yo, b5 is actually like very risky because he's going to start a counterattack. And then I was like, why is my king in the center of the board? So the best line after king e7 is actually to go queen e2 check and then play rook ag8 to prevent this. This is originally what I was going to do. But then I was like, he has all these checks here, like over here. I don't know how I'm feeling about this. In the end, I did not put my king on e7. I could have. I actually could have put my king on e7. But I just wasn't convinced that this was the right... But it was a cool line to calculate. And I long castled, and he went rook e1. Here I was actually really annoyed because now he's threatening 2 pawns at the same time. I then defended my pawn on f8. He went b3, and I had to get my queen kicked out because, you know... I had to go here, stabilize the position. My knight is obviously going to go to d5. And now we reach this position. Now, I would like to just say something. For the rest of the game, I have 30 minutes on the clock. He has 30 seconds. So every time he makes a move, he gains 30 seconds, but he has no time. He has less than 40 seconds to make every move. His time, every move, 30, 40 seconds, ticks down to 10. He gets back to 30 seconds. That's the time control. He burnt a lot of his time. He didn't manage his time so well. That's actually good for me But it's also a little stressful because I don't have any time to think either. Like, I don't have any time to relax. I think for 2-3 minutes, I make a move, he responds immediately, right? And so as long as he's not making mistakes, what'll ultimately happen is I will also get relatively low on time. I can't play blitz chess with 30 minutes on the clock. I very quickly played knight d5. He went bishop d2. Now I had to come up with a game plan. The game plan here is like, are we trading the queens? Are we trading the knight for the bishop? How many rooks are we trading? How am I going to get to this pawn and this pawn and this pawn? This is actually a really big weakness. I will lose it at some point, but maybe, you know, all right. So let's go rook g8. My opponent went g3. Here I repeated moves for a second. I went rook h7. He went queen e4. And then I was like, you know, my idea with rook h7 was that I wanted to double up. I also had a cool idea with rook h7. The idea was to play rook g4 and trap his queen and play f6. So my idea was I wanted to go rook g4 and then f6, removing the guard of the, you know, the queen from this pawn. But I can't go here because my rook is hanging. So I went rook h7, but then we repeated back to this position, and I played f6, and I offered a trade of queens. I thought, look, like, again, queen h7 just makes sense. With no queen, white is not going to be delivering any form of counterplay in the position. I'm going to put my king on d7. It's going to be very safe. And then probably we're going to grind, you know, we're going to grind down the endgame. He went rook e1, and I went king d7, easy improving move. And then he brought this rook back to a1. I had many ideas here. My first idea was rook g4. I didn't go for rook g4, you know, forcing him to take me because of the pin. I didn't see how I was going to win this. Like, I really didn't. I just, like, I thought about this very briefly, and I just didn't know. The truth is, to win, I'm going to have to go f5, because I need to put my knight on f6. And then I have to pressure this pawn, or maybe go to e4. But I just didn't like this very much. Like, I didn't understand. Okay, I go knight f6, he goes rook h1. How do I win? This was so ridiculous to me. Like, I'm up a clean pawn, but where, like, of course, I will create my chances. I'm going to go knight e4, but he's going to go bishop e3. And, like, then what? I cannot move. I can't move this pawn. It's very annoying, you know? I can maybe go with my rook somewhere or whatever, but like I thought about rook g4. I ended up not going for it. I was like, okay, we need to keep the queens on the board. Let's keep the queens on the board for a little bit. And here I came up with rook c8. Thought rook c8 was very clever because I'm going to go c5 now. I'm threatening up to open up the king, and I thought he doesn't have a lot of time to react. He might get afraid of c5, and he might go b4. In the long run, b4 helps me a lot because it's just in the way of the knight. It's a new weakness for him, right? And he went b4. Unfortunately, it's still not the end of the freaking story, right? Like, unfortunately, I'm like, do I attack the pawn immediately? Where do I move my rook? He has another 30 seconds to make his next move. I'm like, do I move my rook here now, or here, or here, or here? Am I still going to try to win this pawn? You know, what are we, like, how are we really? So I quickly played rook e8 because I wanted to move my queen, and I wanted this pawn to be stable. He went, what's funny is when I went rook c8, apparently rook e4 is like only 0.6. If I play c5, he plays rook e1, and like he's equalized. I did not understand anything about this game. Anything. So he went b4, definitely a mistake. I went rook e8, and then I went rook g8 and f5. And my idea was to put a rook on g4, disconnect the queen from the defense of the pawn, and attack the pawn on d4. And if he takes my pawn finally, now I change the plan. I go attack here, and here I was thinking to play rook h5, but again I offered a trade of queens, and he went queen d3. And I sensed I made a lot of progress. This pawn is a target. It cannot go forward. This bishop is a target. My original intention here was to go queen g4, attacking the bishop. The bishop would go here, and I would very simply improve my position. But again, I didn't see a way through after rook e2. I was like, okay, I get all of this, but where's the way through? And here I even started thinking of ghosts. I was starting to think of shit like b5. And I'm like, pawn takes, rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Am I getting mated? The answer is no, but just barely not getting mated. I'm serious. Like, this is utter nonsense. Like, rook e2, if I play some move here like queen h3, I really was afraid, man. Like, I look at this. It's equal. Like, somehow just a queen and a bishop just terrorized the king. So queen d3. And, you know, I'm just like, oh my god, queen g4, knight. Like, so I'm like, okay, look. I know this position has to be winning for black. So I just took his bishop. I'm up a pawn. He has damaged, isolated pawns. I'm like, okay, I have to be winning, right? Like, there's just no shot. So queen g4, queen e3. And I'm like, okay, I get it. His idea is that when I try to win his pawn, he's going to go for d5, sack a pawn, and get into my position. Can I just say that this dude is 9 years old? It's 11 o'clock at night as we're playing this game. And with 30 seconds on the clock, he's coming up with resources like this. Like, this is crazy. This is straight up crazy. This dude just, like, won't lose. He won't lose. It's unbelievable. Queen e3. I didn't even, I mean, like, I saw this, but I was like, okay, like, I win all his pawns. I'm going to win that pawn, the f4 pawn. I'm going to bring my queen back to defend myself. Let's go. Rook h4. And then I got hit with a cold shower. I really did. This late in the game, I mean, what did I calculate? I calculated rook h4, d5, pawn takes, and when he goes queen b6, queen f4, my queen comes back and protects. And here he got a little lucky. I mean, if he saw this from I don't think he saw this from a distance. What happened here is I thought for a couple minutes because I just wanted to really make sure I wasn't like busted because the alternative was to go rook c8 check first. In this position, it's not about him taking my pawn with a check. White has the move rook c3, and it's only -1. I am up 3 pawns, and it's only -1. The better plan was to very slowly try to go for that pawn. And I saw here, I have the sequence with queen b8. I'm like, if I'm not winning in an endgame where I have 3 extra pawns, I don't understand chess. It's -0.5. I'm not winning. I didn't know that during the game, but like, I had a feeling in the back of my mind the engine would love this position with white because all the open lines and everything, but I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna bring my rook back and just like trade off the pieces. Like he can't do anything to me here. Turns out he can. The best plan here for white is to move the king to the b file to get 2 rooks on the c file. Now, originally, my intention here had been to meet this plan with simply giving away one of my pawns. Rook c4 takes, rook c4, and something like king e8, king f7. And this is winning, but not against Stockfish. It may be winning against like a 9-year-old, but Stockfish will defend this position. It is ridiculous you can be up 2 pawns, and it is just not winning because your king is not safe. King is not safe. Your king is constantly under the threats. And you're about to see what happens in this game. So in this game, he went rook g1, which I thought was inaccurate. I thought his rook needed to keep an eye on the e6 pawn. And so I retreated back to e7. And then he went b5. And I'm like, okay, b5 is one last desperate attempt at trying to do something. Pawn takes, queen takes check. I'm going to walk my king over to f7. But before that, I have about 7-8 minutes here. I was like, hey, what if I just offer the rook trade now? So obviously, if I trade the rooks immediately, he will lose. He doesn't have enough firepower. But I didn't go rook c8 because I didn't know what to do after rook g3. I was like, I don't want to trade and give him a rook. Well, actually, it turns out that trading and giving him a rook is the best plan because after that, he doesn't have any more attacking pieces. This just kind of looked scary, so I didn't seriously calculate it. But actually, rook c8 immediately was the winning move. This was the surgical move here. But I just thought like b5, like takes. I mean, I have 4 extra pawns. And I run my king. Like, of course I'm safe. So I took. It's equal. This is equal. Never in a million years could I have imagined. I'm up 4 pawns. It's equal. Can you imagine? Do you know why it's equal? Because white here just does nothing. White just goes like rook g6 or king b1. I don't have a move. Like, originally my plan was rook c8. Rook c8 doesn't work now because I have to defend, I have to defend against this, so I would play something like this. Now, I can't escape checks. If I go to d6, he checks me. If I go this way, I'm going to get mated. So I would then have had to play like, I don't know, rook f7. And then when he checks me and I try to run away, I can no longer run to where I want. So rook g6, if I try to give up the pawn, he would have to find rook c5 only move. Then I would try to give up the pawn again or play something like rook f7, and now it's a draw. King e7, queen d6. The queen before this position's a draw. I mean, yeah, wow. I should have played rook c8. That's what I should have played. Should have played rook c8. Should have kind of trusted myself, but I was like, oh, he's gonna... No, and now it's a draw. Now it actually works because the rook isn't attacking me. Luckily, my opponent is not Stockfish and is a human being and thought he has to take the pawn with a check, but this allows my king to get over to f7, and now I'm winning. Yeah, if I drew this game, I don't know. Maybe I would have slept on the subway station or tracks. It's just like, oh my God. It's just insane. I almost didn't win this game too. Queen d4 he played. I went queen h8, which was a nice move. And luckily, you know, I managed my time well. I had about 5 minutes at this point. I centralized my queen, and he keeps kind of trying to create threads, but at this point, I have a safe king. I have very good stability with my pieces. And I remember I was playing thinking like, all right, my turn. Now I want to attack. Let me attack. So I attacked. And the threat is on the rook. The threat is a check to win the pawn on f2. The threat is rook h2 with rook f2. The threat is even pawn to d3, sacking a pawn to open up the king. And I sensed the end was near. I even predicted his next move. I thought he was going to go queen d8, ignoring the threat on the rook to try to checkmate me. And he missed that I can play rook h8. And now the queen is hanging. It's defended. Everything is covered. And the rook is hanging, and he resigned. Which, by the way, is also admirable. 9-year-olds who resign in losing positions, as opposed to play until checkmate. There are some coaches out there that insist that their young kids play until mate. I know I tell you to play until mate, but none of you are as strong as my opponent. You know, I just thought it was like pretty classy that like this kid just like resigned, you know, because he knew the position was losing instead of playing till mate. This was a 4-hour game, all in all. It ended at like 10:50 at night. It started at 7 p.m. This is also my first tournament win in like 20 games. I played a tournament August last year. I won 1 game. I played 4 games in a mini tournament here. I didn't win a single game. I played 4 classical games against Pia Kramling. I won 1. It was on time. I don't even count that. I just don't count it. I mean, like that wasn't a classical win. So then I played 2 games then I played 9 games in a tournament in January. I got walloped. I didn't win a single game. Then I played 2 games like a couple weeks ago. I didn't win a single game. So that's 11 games this year. I didn't win. That's another 5. I didn't win. 15. 4 against Pia, 19. And then 9 more games. I only won 1 game. I had 1 win in 28 games. Like, what am I even doing with myself? I mean, this is like, I just can't win. I can't win. I had winning positions in like 4 of those games probably. And I just didn't win. But this game I won. Almost. I didn't. But it felt never in doubt. Like I never in a million years was like, oh, it's just a draw in the end game, even though I'm up 4 pawns. But man, chess is brutal. More recaps coming. I just made this video after waking up, so I will make some coffee, walk the dog, play more chess. Yeah, this kid better be a GM, dude. There's another kid in this tournament who's also like 7 or 8 years old, and he's already like 2100, which is just, he just beat a GM. Bro. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.